All right, everyone. Well, we're going to get started here. Thank you for joining our webinar today on RFID. My name is Clint Larson, and I am a sales consultant with Liberty Systems. Liberty is a family business. We've been serving the manufacturing and distribution industries for over 20 years. And one of the ways we do this is by educating our customers and the community on different technologies we feel could be of value to their organization. So the webinar today is not only going to cover what RFID is and the benefits of using it, but we're really going to look at how we can utilize RFID within your organization. So we'll touch on topics like work in process, asset management, quality control, everything like that. And the agenda for today, we are going to have a couple guest speakers. So John Worthland from Zebra Technologies is going to be starting us off. And then Ruben Press from Xemelgo Software will be following up after John. And then myself here will go ahead and finish it off with a Q&A and then look at a couple success use cases we've had here at Liberty. One thing or just a couple things to mention before we get started here is the webinar is being recorded. So if anyone on your team didn't have the opportunity to log on today, we will be sure to send that recording out within the next 24 hours so you can pass that along internally. And then also questions. We're going to be covering a lot of topics today. So as questions do come up, please just put those in the chat box. We'll be making sure to monitor those and make sure we get those addressed at the end. And then lastly, I did just want to point out that we'll be talking about a lot of different solutions today. If there is anything that we're talking about today that you don't feel fits your needs or your unique requirements, let us know. We have a network of a lot of providers. So no matter what you're looking to do, we still want to collaborate with your team and help find a suitable solution. So with that, I am going to pass it over to John Worthland with Zebra.
Hey, Clint, thank you very much for having me. So I'm the industry principal for manufacturing, transportation, logistics here at Zebra. So what that is I'm a subject matter expert. I have a background primarily in warehousing and as well as some manufacturing. And I have also served in a lot of roles in IT on the infrastructure as well as large application development projects. So my role here is I have a very good deep knowledge of all of our solutions as well as our partner solutions and the solutions in the industry. So what I do is I look at different trends, partner with our customers at a more strategic level, try to understand what their business needs are in the next 3 to 5 years, hopefully have an opportunity to walk through their facility and then give them some relative ideas. And, this is a very good topic because RFID has been first and foremost, especially since the pandemic, all of our customers across verticals are looking to figure out how they can automate and do, meet higher expectations with less people. So RFID certainly fits that. And thank you for advancing this slide. So in the manufacturing space, we see some key areas that I just want to point out. And it's really about, you can see at the top here, coordinating the flow of material. I always look at, if I'm going to planner and I'm going to build 10 widgets on Thursday, I need to make sure that the right products are, the right assets are there. So I've got my parts in, assemblies, things like that. And they're at the assembly line in the right time, in the right condition, so that I can make sure that I'm able to fulfill that week or that day's goals. So the other thing that we find is, so with that is tool tracking. So, in order to find some specialized tools, a lot of our customers, especially think about heavy, expensive machinery, there's very specific types of tools that need to be used, and those are very expensive, but so they need to make sure they can find those in order to fix things or, put a different part on or part of the assembly process. And we also find that it's useful to be able to integrate that tool with the backend system to make sure that it's been calibrated within the last 3 months or whatever the requirements are. Because we found a lot of dealing with a lot of customers that I have, if there's a problem that goes wrong and the customer, we're able to trace that back to a tool that either the wrong tool or the tool is out of calibration, that can be very expensive for that customer to bring that machine back in and fix it. So those are big things. So we're seeing RFID not only put on tools, but also embedded in them so that they can be read either at close range or understand, where they are so they can be found. So those are a big deal. And again, assembly lines moving, right? Ensure the right materials at the right time, the right place. That's a big problem with making sure that, again, we know if there's a shortage ahead of time, so we can proactively adjust to what we're going to build that next day. And it helps us, get a leg up to make sure that we're not always reacting to problems, but we are able to sense that information electronically with a sensor-based approach, such as RFID, instead of, scanning, or somebody forgets to scan the pallet of products that came into the back door. Well, if you don't scan it, your ERP system doesn't know it's there, so you can't consume it. So again, RFID at the dock door and be able to locate those products, to make sure that they're there, is something that we're seeing a lot of as well. And then going into identity, you think about the automotive arena, which obviously is very highly competitive. But if you've ordered a car lately and you ask for a particular, finish or a particular leather on the seats, sometimes these leathers are discernible, right, through the naked eye. So we're seeing RFID being used to make sure that, if this particular car is supposed to get leather 1, 2, 3, RFID can help you identify that or tag that as opposed to a different asset that may look very, very similar. And also using RFID to locate those products in the environment is also extremely helpful to keep the flow of goods moving. And again, stop wasting time, spending an hour trying to look for the right part when you can find that immediately and keep that flow going. And we're seeing that, that helping with lowering the cost of inventory. And again, automatically tracking the shelf life of those perishable goods. So if something's going to expire, there's a lot code or something, we can find those items very quickly and react to those. And then as the items go outbound of the facility, ensuring that the right product gets on the right truck, as far as what we call shipment verification at the dock door, is one of those low-hanging fruits where we see customers, not only in manufacturing, but warehousing and other areas, to make sure that they're right. Because especially when you have something large, it's shipped to the wrong place, it's very expensive to correct that and get that back to where it needs to go. So making sure, again, these are proactive measures that we can take to make sure that we're doing the right thing at the right time. And you can see at the bottom, RFID I use, that's one of our sensing technologies. But we also have Bluetooth, ultra wideband, WearNet, as well as GPS. And those can be used interchangeably together. And that data is captured into our MotionWorks enterprise platform to be able to be normalized and then integrate with those back-end ERP systems to capture that information. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about right now. I think I will turn it over to Ruben, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Hi, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you today. My name is Ruben Press. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer over at Xemelgo. We are a software company based out of the Seattle area, and we deliver SaaS-based solutions. Some of our applications include our smart solutions, our asset tracking, inventory management, work order management, as well as shipment tracking. So a lot of the things that John was just talking to, we can address specifically with our software and provide higher visibility on how we can actually work within those environments. At the end of the day, the focus for us is delivering solutions that impact your business. And we're really about automating the ability to collect data within your business operations using Zebra sensor-based technologies that enable that to be hands-free, and again, automating and more accurate and provide further visibility. Our applications work across many different environments, but these are the three main areas we generally find ourselves: manufacturing, logistics environments, distribution and warehousing, as well as retail. But predominantly where we're seeing ourselves today with RFID specifically is in the manufacturing space. And that's really what we want to focus on today. Our software can be standalone. It could be independent by itself, but also can communicate with back-end systems. And the reason for that is the way we designed our solution is to allow for embracing existing technologies, ERP systems, WMS systems, whatever it may be in the back end, and allow our solution to be on the front end with the technology, capturing that data and then feeding it into your existing systems today. In some cases, you might not want to do that. You might want to use our system, the Xemelgo software, to track everything and then just provide updates to the core solution in the background, whether it be SAP, Oracle, or other homegrown potential systems. A lot of systems that are out there today might not offer the ability to customize the software. Our system can be deployed and can offer you the ability to be up and running right out of the box within a few days, depending on the scale of the deployment. But we also can do customizations. You may have specific features that we like to call co-creation, where we work with you and we'll help design those features specific to how you would like to operate your business. And we actually embrace that. And really, the features we have today have grown through the experiences with our other clients. So we look for that. We absolutely embrace it, and it's something we're very good at and can do fairly quickly. A quick view of some of the companies that we work with. From rocket ships to aerospace, parts manufacturers, boat manufacturing, pharmaceutical, food. Is a lot of different variety here that we work with, and it's given us a lot of experience that we can leverage to support a lot of companies out there today. The technology now utilizes from, as John was mentioning, from labels, RFID labels to handhelds or fixed mount readers. And really the fixed mount readers give you that ability to automatically collect the data at certain points within your operation, seeing the in or the out of product movement, whether it be assets, whether it be raw materials or finished goods. And then the mobile device gives you the ability to speed up the process. Myself, I've been involved in auto ID and barcoding solutions for 30 years, and the last 20 years with RFID. And it's just amazing. Once RFID gets inside one of your locations, you see the ability and the capability of the solution. It dramatically increases efficiencies and provides a higher level of profitability for your organization. Our software then takes in all that input and allows us to communicate that back to you through different visualizations, which I'm going to jump through right now in our solutions. The first one I'd like to talk to is asset management. This is very similar to Find My iPhone type of solution, where as product moves throughout your facility, as John was mentioning before about assets and having calibration, you need to be able to find those tools quickly to be able to make that, to have that calibration happen. And if it's not a tool, it's a different asset that needs servicing, or maybe it's an end of life type of item. We can provide that visibility automatically as you have RFID throughout your facility and you're tracking the movement from zone to zone or from work cell to work cell, depending on whether it's manufacturing or logistical type of environment. So we can do that, and we can visually do that. As you see on the screen here, there's a map in the middle there that kind of shows you the red, yellow, and green. And that is trying to provide an easy way to understand, how the health of your assets within the environment. And when you see red, you can go look at that, and maybe there's items in there that need to be calibrated. And when it's yellow, maybe it means something is coming up due soon. So it provides you to react to that and be notified. So our system can automatically notify you of calibration dates, X amount of days prior to its due date. And that's something we do quite well. Also for finding assets, first I would like to say, if an asset leaves a zone, let's say a tool works within a certain area, and it doesn't work in other areas within the facility. So if it leaves that area, we can set up a geofence within that zone and alert you automatically if something has left the area or it enters a different area. So then when you're trying to find an item to calibrate it through using let's say a search and find feature, we can actually trigger that to happen and go into that last known location through that breadcrumb trail that we provide with our software, showing you when it entered or exited any environment, any area or zone. You can go into that zone, you can actually pull the trigger, and then as you can see, it can illuminate colors on the screen. It makes audible sounds. It gets faster as you get closer, and it can allow you to get to that item more quickly. A great example of this is one of our clients is Centrix, and their biggest challenge was they couldn't find their items, and they were searching. They know it needed to be calibrated, but they weren't sure where it was. And by utilizing RFID technology and having zones and having breadcrumb trails to understand where the product last was, they could go there, they can do a search and find, and it had a dramatic impact on their business. And they're 100% on time, calibrated, and they've met all the needs that they had within that environment. Next is inventory management. Inventory management is something that's, from raw materials to finished goods, having the ability to understand what's on your floor. And as you can see on these screens as well, these are examples of our dashboards. We can show the actual visualization of the item itself. We could show it in more of a list format. You have the ability to set this up and configure it in the way that you like to run your business. But again, you can see the colors on the screen there, the yellow or the green, and the green is the assets and the item is in good standing. The yellow might be that you're running low and you may need to replenish soon. But you can click on any asset, or you can get an alert automatically sent to you once you get below your min-max levels. So if you set up the min-max levels up front, It will provide you that visibility and understanding of when you get below that and trigger a potential replenishment for that item. The other ability too is when you have fixed readers, you can automatically be tracking the movement and have grab and go type of inventory. But in some cases, you may want to validate that and do a cycle count. We can offer that ability as well to take a handheld, go into a room, a inventory location, and quickly scan all the items. Whereas obviously in barcode technology, you need to see each individual barcode. With RFID, you don't need to see each individual label. It automatically can track that much more quickly and provide you that visibility as your cycle count validates that exactly what you thought you had, you actually have. So you know what you're working from. One example there is a client of ours called Hisco. Hisco is a vendor managed inventory company, and they actually utilize our software for all their clients. So they manage inventory for all their clients, and product goes in and out of a room. And originally they had to have a person go on site and manually count the items in that room to determine whether they needed to be replenished or not. Our software automatically tracks the movement through the Zebra fixed reader as it goes in and out of the room and triggers replenishment automatically. So it reduced the labor quite a bit, as well as made the inventory accurate 100%. As we move into work order management and work in process, this is, one of the most used applications we have in our fleet of clients. And the visibility you get here is to understand how your product goes from a raw material to a finished good. And this again, touches on what John was mentioning earlier, is having the ability to see, if you can go back one more slide there, see each work cell, and you can see the check mark as it completes each work cell. Now, if a bottleneck comes up, you would immediately know that because you set thresholds, knowing that within each work cell, it normally is within that area within a day or 2 days or an hour or 2 hours. And if it exceeds that time of being in that zone, it will send an alert, which will then allow you to then go and react and try to address that at the time it happens versus finding after the fact and potentially being late in delivering your orders. The photos on the next slide show you some examples of antennas or readers that are being deployed in active environments. So it's a good example to show. There's, again, handhelds, fixed readers. There's readers with external antennas that can have isolated signals. So we can design the system to meet your specific needs. So going on site, doing a survey in some cases makes sense to make sure we can identify exactly what's needed to support the application. For Sakasui, which is one of our larger clients, this is a great example of crawl, walk, run approach. RFID and our software really allows you to get in and test the waters and put in a few readers, which is exactly what Sakasui did. Sakasui, which is one of the larger commercial aerospace components manufacturer out of Washington State, they actually were just up for an RFID Journal award for best deployment with our Xemelgo software in their facility. But they did a 3-year crawl, walk, run approach. And they started with 3 readers, and the visibility they got with those 3 readers just dictated the path moving forward. Today, they have over 150 readers deployed in one location. And now we're in the process of deploying their second location, which will have 160 plus readers in there. Where they're putting these readers at their dock doors as product goes in and out to their distribution facility once the product is completed. They also have it at every work cell as the product moves from cell 1 to 2 to 3. They are tracking that movement, and they can immediately tell whether something is delayed, and they can address it at that time. Lastly is our shipment tracking solution, and I touched on this really briefly with Sakasui, but they want to close that loop. So as product is completed at your manufacturing facility and it's getting shipped to your logistics environment, we're trying to track that it actually left and then it actually arrived, and we're validating that through our software. So that's a quick review of the solutions that we have to offer today. And if it makes sense down the road and you want to see the software live, definitely reach out to Liberty Systems, and we'd love to spend some more time with you on that. Thank you. And Clint, I'll pass it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Ruben. Before we kind of talk about some use cases here or some projects that we've been involved with here at Liberty, I did just want to briefly just make sure that we kind of go through the process or what you could expect if you do some sort of RFID project with Liberty. So The first thing we're going to do is we're going to want to take a look at exactly what you're wanting to do. What your goal is for the project or initiative, what kind of pain point or issue you're trying to solve. And then from there, we will then make the determine, okay, is RFID right for us? And if so, we're then going to move into the next stage. And that's usually going to be some sort of on-site analysis where we're actually walking through your facility, where we're walking through what you're wanting to do. We're taking a look at the environment there, and we're helping put together a plan and plan in place to bring that kind of RFID project to life. So once we get a very good understanding of what you're looking to do, we have a good understanding of your facility. We're then going to move into some sort of a proof of concept or POC. So what we're going to do is after our on-site, we're going to come back to you with some sort of proposal. And within that proposal, we're going to outline the different hardware needs you require, different software needs you require to make your project come to fruition. And then once we have that proposal in place, we'll send you different demo hardware, demo equipment, demo software, to really get a proof of concept, verified, confirmed before we ever move on. And then once we get that taken care of, we then move right into deployment. And that can be anything from Liberty actually going on site to your facility and installing your RFID readers, your cables, and configuring them, all the way to, we're just here to lend support and, kind of support as needed with your team as they're kind of rolling everything out. And one way we kind of put that into work is our first example here. So we had a customer of ours come to us, and they wanted to find a better way to better manage their assembly process. So this particular customer, they're a global manufacturer, and a lot of the systems they're putting together or assembling are usually made with very large sheet metal. So there wasn't a really good way to kind of track their material and their systems as they're going through the assembly process. So they came to us with an idea of, we want to be able to do this and we want to be able to automate it because we don't want to, change up processes and have someone, dedicated to scanning product in. So we went on site and we found out that we would be able to achieve this with being able to put Zebra readers and antennas at different workstations throughout their facility. And then we would also label each assembly piece. So when we were able to do that, we were then able to see exactly when and where a piece of, a piece was in the assembly process or where that system was. So not only were we able to see internally where at each point the assembly was for that system, but we were also then able to give our customer visibility or their customers visibility. So that gave them a competitive advantage in the market because now they're able to show their customers, hey, your custom system is right here. It's expected to be out of this station at X amount of time, and you can expect it to be completed and shipped by this time. So we were able to do all that with RFID and utilizing Zebra technology hardware. And the next example we have is an example of quality control. This particular customer, they do a lot of custom cabinetry and assembly for custom cabinets. So one of the issues, or the issue they came to us with, was they were having a very hard time not only locating pieces of the custom cabinets, but also just verifying that all the pieces were where they were supposed to be before the assembly process started. So issues they were running into is they were going through, hundreds of orders a day. And sometimes they would get to an assembly point and find out that one of the panels they had or one of the side pieces they had, it wasn't with the correct order. So they would have to then go and find the correct piece because, again, a lot of these cabinets are custom. A lot of the front panels, the face plates are very similar. So being able to find these lost items, it can be very time consuming. So what we did is we were able to find a very small, very niche RFID label that we would be able to put on all the different pieces of their cabinets. And then from there, not only are we able to verify within seconds that all pieces of that cabinet for that order are where they're supposed to be, but we're also able to, locate those lost items. So like Ruben kind of touched on with the search and find features. So with RFID, you do have a really nice feature of being able to locate assets. So if you are able to find what asset you're looking for, you can, whip out your RFID reader and it's going to help you locate where that item is. So this customer being able to do that, it's saving them a ton of time. They no longer have as many misships to their customers. Orders are shipping complete and in a timely manner, much more efficiently now. And that kind of wraps up what we were going to talk about. We did have quite a few questions come in throughout the webinar here, so we're going to go ahead and get those addressed. The first question we do have here is, and this can be to Ruben or John. But I guess what kind of concept testing is required before a purchase of RFID is done? So I know we kind of touched on on-site evaluations. I guess Ruben, from Xemelgo's side, is there anything else that needs to be done prior to prior to do any kind of RFID testing?
Yeah, no, I think that you touched on it with the on-site assessment. That's probably the most important part, is to determine what type of hardware makes sense to be used, and as well as what types of tags. You need to have the right tags with the right hardware to be successful. And then also with our software, we have the ability to, since we're priced per reader, it allows people to start with 1 or 2 readers quite small if they need to, see how well it works, and then grow from there.
Yeah, and I think, with a partner like Xemelgo and Liberty Systems, I think the key is really to go and understand, the problem first, right? We know that we have all the solutions and hardware that we need. And right now I'm actually reading a book called Fall in Love with the Problem, Not the Solution. And it's not that the solution is not important, but it's really understanding the problem in the environment so that, partners like Liberty and Xemelgo can put the right solution forward.
And I guess just to kind of build on that, thank you both. Another question we had are, what are some of the typical challenges or limitations we see when we're implementing RFID? Ruben, John, again, do you guys see any issues that or limitations that are always kind of popping up just to be aware of?
I think that basically, if it's really important, again, on the tag and the solution, well, touching on what John said about, specifically addressing the challenges and the problems that you're having, but making sure that the technology you're choosing, the right reader with the right tags. Certain readers have certain read ranges, the antennas and the signal shoots in different directions depending on what configuration you choose. So making sure the right label at the right label size, which has the chip on it, and the antenna that's readable from the distance where you're putting the antennas and the readers, is very important and critical. So it's just something I can't stress enough, to make sure that you are attentive to those needs first, to ensure that when it's deployed, it's going to work well for you.
Yeah, I agree with everything Ruben said. I think also that, customers have to be flexible to, for us to help them come in and look at the problem from a different perspective. So, you're not trying to automate the same thing you've been doing for years, right? You're trying to figure out how to make that solution better. And sometimes passive RFID may not be the right solution, or may be part of the solution. Whereas, other solutions for locationing may need to be brought in, for different types of environments. And again, kind of normalized to be able to provide the right outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah, and John, maybe can you expand on that a little bit too, because we actually had a question come in regarding active RFID tags.
Right.
What does Zebra have experience with active RFID? And then also Ruben with Xemelgo, you guys as well, how your software works with active RFID tagging.
Yeah, so we do. We have a lot of different things. The thing that people sometimes don't know is we have a strong relationship with the NFL and Amazon Web Services, where we're putting active technology into all the NFL players' pads, the ball, and the referees. And if you ever watch an NFL game and you see next gen stats, and you see the ball moving around, the players moving around, we have sensors all around the stadium that are doing that tracking. So that's tracking. If you think about assets, that's tracking assets, every second, or more than one time a second, throughout an environment. That's a certain use case that may be used, but a lot of times customers don't need that. They need to know, like, where was it last seen, like Ruben was using in some of the examples. So we need to know presence, maybe not necessarily where something is every single moment of the day. Maybe we need to, hey, this is placed in this particular area and it hasn't left that area, so you can go find it.
Yeah, and from a technology standpoint, with Xemelgo software, we're technology agnostic. We work with active or passive tags. We can work with the other Zebra solutions, whether it be BLE or other sensor-based technologies. So any of that can be incorporated. It really comes down to to the use case. What we've seen to this point is it's been quite a bit heavy on passive technology, just because it's, you have the ability from a cost standpoint to really deploy at high levels. But all the solutions that, John mentioned, we can absolutely integrate with, and our software can support.
And maybe just talk a little bit more about the software side of things, Ruben. So what are some steps for integrating RFID into an existing ERP system? So from your guys' perspective, what are some things customers need to be aware of if they want to start looking at that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And generally we'll find initially what we've seen, I would say the majority of the time of people have started with the solution independent, and then they've integrated it into their back end system like an ERP solution. We have hundreds of deployments with SAP or Oracle or other ERP or WMS or POS type solutions, and really comes down to scoping it out up front and having an understanding of what data does the client need to have transmitted back and forth. Is it one-way communications, just feeding the ERP? Are we grabbing stuff from the ERP system? So having those discussions up front, making sure the scope is detailed. But this is something we do quite a bit, and it's not a big time hog. Usually when people think about integrating into a back-end system, like, oh, geez, that's going to be a big number and it's going to take a long time. And we've really mastered the art, in my opinion, of integrating into back-end systems and automated the process pretty well. So we can get it done pretty quickly, which means at a reasonable price.
And then a follow-up question to that too is, are we relying mostly on current infrastructure for network that's in place? Or I guess, can we talk a little bit more about that? Maybe John or Ruben, just kind of what's expected from a customer end as far as network goes to be able to, provide RFID into their infrastructure.
Yeah, I'll touch on quickly. Yeah, and then I'll hand it off to you, John. But basically, RFID leverages a lot of different networking connections, and whether it be wireless, potentially wireless readers, or network through this power over Ethernet, which meaning existing Ethernet cabling that's out there that we can connect into, and you can get the power from the Ethernet versus having to run a power to where that reader is being deployed, which is a lot easier to do and a lot less expensive. So there's many options to connect these systems, and I'll let John add to that.
Yeah, I would agree with what you said, Ruben. And I'm looking at the question that was asked in the Q&A here, but also, the part of the questions was, can it be integrated into a cellular service? And we're seeing, especially in the DoD, where they wanted to use 5G. So connecting those the infrastructure of those readers to a 5G network is also a viable option as well. And then as far as the handhelds, we're mostly relying on a just like a barcode scanner in a handheld device. You're relying on the Wi-Fi or a 5G network.
Great, thank you. And then Ruben, we do have a question for you, just in terms of you're talking about the VMI process you have in place for one of your customers. Can you expand on that a little bit, talking about what that infrastructure looks like? Do we have RFID readers on site at the customer site, and kind of what that looks like?
Yeah, so generally what we've seen to date is there's a zone, or there's going to be a room where this inventory is generally housed that they're managing. And in and out of that room, is a threshold. So we have a solution generally with a fixed reader that's covering that threshold with the RFID signal, and anything going in or out is being tracked, and we understand the directionality as well. That is a physical reader that would need to be installed on site. Now, you could use a handheld, so you don't have to physically install and connect something to your Ethernet, and you can connect that handheld through Wi-Fi wireless communications. So you really have two options there, but the automated process would be a fixed reader. And yes, for those deployments, there is a fixed reader physically on site at those client locations.
Perfect, thank you. And then this can again be kind of opened up to both Zebra and Xemelgo, but do either of you have an ROI document for customers so they can kind of calculate what they can expect for an ROI, or basically just any kind of ROI information you can provide?
Yeah, I think I'm sure, Ruben, you have that, but even at a very high level, when I talk to financial people, they're always looking for an investment, with an ROI in less than 2 years. And A lot of the use cases that we see are, 12 to 18 months. I'm going to be very conservative, so the ROI is certainly there because last 2 to 3 to 4 years, I think the technology has matured and the cost of the ongoing cost of the labels has come down significantly. And, people ask me what the cost of a label is. And I said, well, Walmart is one of the most, frugal companies on the planet. And if they see value in putting an RFID tag on every package of underwear, then you can imagine it's probably at the right spot.
Yeah, and from our standpoint, we actually have a few exercises we can go through as we present the software to customers. We have like a 30,000-foot view where we understand generally what the costs are in certain environments, and obviously you can change the number of personnel or time it takes to do certain tasks, and we can actually let you know what the ROI would be expected based on past experiences. And we can do that based on application, whether work order management, asset tracking, inventory management. So we have some good examples. We can share that with our clients or prospective clients, as well as we can get a little deeper and have a workshop with potential clients to kind of go through and build something specific to their environment. So just like John said, the safe view is 12 to 18 months, but we've seen it, and I'm sure John has as well, seen it much sooner than that as well.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to throw out numbers that don't stick or don't seem reasonable, but the reality is that RFID absolutely impacts the business in a positive way that brings back the return on investment.
Well, I think, to add on that, Ruben, is that if you start with a particular technology, let's say at a dock door, and you want to do shipment verification outbound, a lot of our customers will find that one use case to kind of start with, do that initial integration. And then once they kind of see it working, the wheels start turning and they're like, well, what can I do as far as receiving, and now you're leveraging that same technology and now you're boosting the value proposition out of that technology in the same space. Same thing with handhelds and things like that. So, the ROI becomes quicker as you start finding different use cases that you can leverage that same investment on.
Great. And then just one last question, for both of you, it's around security. So what are some potential risks or vulnerabilities the RFID systems have in terms of cyber attacks or anything we've seen recently?
I don't have anything specific on that, Ruben. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, just from a software perspective, we're AWS cloud-based. We're certified. We've been in DoD and other very strict environments, security environments, and we've went through the rigorous process of making sure that the data was safe and that the information is not vulnerable. So all I can say is that we've gone through the exercises with companies that really are stringent about certain policies, and we've passed through that. So I think it's safe to say that our data and the way we structure it is quite safe. There's always obviously something that could come up, but right now we take it very seriously. We have a security white paper that touches on that we can share with clients if they have the need to see that.
Okay, thank you. And then actually just one last question here actually was in follow-up to, John, I believe you mentioned that a good place to start for just RFID, in a manufacturing facility is outbound. Is that kind of the simplest place to kind of implement RFID right away into manufacturing?
There's so many different things as far as manufacturing. So, it's hard to tell. I was at a automotive tier 1 supplier the other day, and what they wanted to do was, they move these huge racks of assets around on a forklift. And right now what the forklift driver has to do is they have to get off the forklift and scan the big, huge rack and then get back on it. And they just want to use RFID to capture that rack, so, that was their starting point. And as we talked about, outbound and things, they thought, hey, let me do this in 5 or 6 locations. Again, do that initial integration. And then, I can justify that small investment now, but then when I go to my corporate, I can invest, show that works and then go from there. So the starting point and that, the initial low hanging fruit, I think is different for everybody, but, shipment verification outbound in general is usually something that I see quite a bit.
Great. Thank you. Ruben, John, anything else either one of you want to add?
No, just a pleasure to be on here today and sharing the information with everyone, and look forward to hopefully some follow-up discussions.
Yes, no, thank you both. John, Ruben, really appreciate your time today and the insight into RFID. And thank you everyone for joining the webinar today and listening and sharing your time with us. As both Ruben and John have mentioned, if you have any further questions, follow-up questions, please reach out to Liberty Systems. We would love to have a conversation with you and your team and see what we can do as far as RFID goes. Thank you all again.